One question that I've seen a lot is regarding whether or not Luke Skywalker had ever visited his grandmother Shmi's grave on Tatooine, or if he even knew it was there in the first place. It's a great question, touching on a topic that extends and connects across the prequel and original trilogies. We know that after Shmi Skywalker's death, Anakin brought her body back to the Lars homestead and buried her there, leaving her grave and headstone as a permanent reminder of this. So one has to wonder, did Luke, having grown up on the moisture farm for almost 2 decades, know his grandmother Shmi was buried there? And if so, did he ever visit her grave? Or was this kept a secret from Luke to the point where he didn't even know Shmi's grave was there? In this video expose, we'll look at these questions and describe what we know about Luke's knowledge of Shmi's grave within the Legends lore. We'll start by looking at the details revealed in the 2003 Legends novel Tatooine Ghost. The story includes Leia traveling to Tatooine years after Episode 6, where she slowly learns about the past of her father Anakin and his early years growing up on the planet. After finding Shmi Skywalker's journal and immediately relating to the experiences of her grandmother, Leia believes she had a fairly good understanding of what happened. However, it wasn't until she met a woman named Dama, who was the younger sister of Beru Lars, that Leia realized she didn't really know much at all. And it's here that we learn about Luke's knowledge regarding the grave of Shmi Skywalker as he was growing up. Leia was startled to learn that Shmi had been taken by Tusken Raiders, and yet, she was certain the story had a happy ending once she learned from Dama that Anakin had brought Shmi back to the farm. But Dama quickly turned that around, telling Leia that Shmi was already dead when Anakin returned, and that they buried her on the Lars homestead. But Leia found this hard to believe. She had visited the moisture farm herself, and yet Leia didn't see any headstones, and certainly not one that belonged to her grandmother Shmi, as she would have remembered that clearly. Importantly for our video here, Dama would explain to Leia that once Luke arrived on Tatooine and was given to Owen and Beru Lars by Obi-Wan, Dama recognized herself that all of the headstones that had previously been there were missing. And when Dama asked her sister Beru why the headstones were no longer there, Beru simply responded that it was Owen that removed them, as he didn't see a need for anyone to know where Shmi was buried. Therefore, we know that the headstone of Shmi Skywalker's grave was hidden from Luke, and really from everyone, by Owen Lars once Luke arrived on Tatooine, with the headstone that had previously been present when Anakin was on Tatooine prior to the Clone War completely removed. This information is perfectly in line with the story presented in the 2009 Legends novel A New Hope, The Life of Luke Skywalker, which followed the information presented in Tatooine Ghost. In The Life of Luke Skywalker, Owen fully admitted he was the one who removed the headstones, not wishing to go into any more detail than that. We also see Dama learn for the first time from Beru that Owen didn't think it was worth having anyone know that Shmi was buried there, leading him to remove every headstone on the farm. I believe we can conclude that when Luke was growing up on Tatooine, he never visited his grandmother Shmi's grave because he didn't know its location due to the headstone being removed. The grave was intentionally hidden from Luke by his uncle Owen, with Luke's arrival acting as the catalyst for Owen to remove Shmi's headstone. Just as Leia saw no evidence that Shmi was ever buried on the moisture farm, Luke would have likely had the same experience despite his far greater time spent there. However, this isn't the full story regarding Luke's knowledge of his grandmother Shmi and her being buried on Tatooine. Although Luke would know very little about his biological family, which isn't surprising at all given the nature of his growing up and being hidden on Tatooine, he would know he had a grandmother named Shmi and that she was buried somewhere on Tatooine. Luke was only 4 years old when Beru would explain to her sister Dama that Owen removed all of the headstones on the moisture farm, including that of Shmi Skywalker. But not knowing Luke was close by and listening, and having heard the name Shmi for the first time, Luke surprised Beru by asking her who Shmi was. To her credit, Beru answered honestly, telling Luke that Shmi was his grandmother, and not hiding the fact that she was buried on Tatooine, but not specifically on the moisture farm. Being only 4 years old at the time, Luke heard this information, but as the novel makes clear, he quickly moved on to another topic. But regardless, we do know in Legends that Shmi Skywalker's headstone wasn't present on the farm when Luke was growing up on Tatooine. It was intentionally hidden by Owen Lars when Luke arrived, and while he might remember that his grandmother Shmi died on Tatooine, it's questionable if Luke was ever able to determine the true location of the grave as he was growing up on Tatooine prior to the events of Episode 4. So there we have it, how Owen Lars hid Shmi Skywalker's grave and death from Luke. Thank you very much to all of the Patreon members of Star Wars Reading Club, as your support is so greatly appreciated. If you'd like to support us on Patreon, you can find a link to it in the description below, along with all of our social media links and a link to our Star Wars gaming channel. We love making these videos, so why not subscribe for more fun Star Wars theories and discussions. Also, if you enjoyed the video, think about giving a like or leaving a comment. If not for me... For what a jerk!